Should I drop the punchline right now? It. Kayvon Thibadeux of the New York Giants is becoming a venture partner while playing at a firm called the Collectiv. The athletes are a bigger asset to the venture capital firm than the venture capital firm is to the athlete at this current moment in time. And let me tell you something. This is the power of athletes now. If Kayvon Thibadeux is on the Zoom call, you're gonna listen. And this is why all real estate and venture capital firms are sourcing their next Kayvon Thibadeux. You want an athlete on board. And more companies are doing this now, which sets the bar and sets us up for a new trajectory with where the relationships between real estate, venture capital, and professional athletes are going. Let's go, baby. Welcome to another episode of the Athletes and Assets podcast. I'm your host, Noah Lack, and I bring on your favorite athletes to chat about the business they're building and entrepreneurship. Today, we got a little solo episode, a little solo vibe, because Kayvon Thibadeux of the New York Giants just made a move that will prove the point I got to tell you guys, because this has been on my mind for a couple of days now. I need to get off my chest, and this is where we're going. Should I drop the punchline right now? It. In 5 to 7 years from now, it will be commonplace for real estate and venture capital firms to have a high-profile athlete on their team as a venture partner, or at least an advisor. It will be mandatory, regardless of investment thesis, because of various reasons that we'll get into in this episode. But let's use Kayvon Thibadeux as a case study, because this is great. Sportico wrote a great article on this. Kayvon Thibadeux, first of all, 23-year-old defensive end for the New York Giants, the G-Men. New York. He's in the heart of it all. He's got a great season ahead of him. He's going into year 3. Last year, he had 11 and a half sacks. The dude is fearsome on the field. Let me remind you, he's 23 years old. Former Oregon Duck legend. So he's in the prime of his NFL career. So what makes him compelled to drop this news? Kayvon is becoming a venture partner while playing at a firm called the Collectiv, which is raising $20 million to invest in sports technology, leagues, and teams across the board. This is a historical moment that won't be labeled as historical currently, but I consider it as such. He's in his prime. 10 years ago, he should just be focusing on football, but he's taken the power that he has right now to a whole nother level, and I love it. It's a great move. Let's talk about the Collectiv really quick again. So the Collectiv, very young, early stage fund based out of H-Town, hold it down. And they have a collection of athletes, sports executives, industry leaders, who are investing in this debut fund. And venture capital is hard. It's tough. You need every advantage you can. So the Collective's like, look, we need the collection of the biggest and brightest minds. When we place checks behind companies, we know we'll have backing and support and different, people and tools in our arsenal, if you will. Kayvon felt very aligned with this. Actually, I'll quote the Sportico article. When you come into a business, you can get your money back, but you can't get your reputation back. For me, being an athlete and aligning with the diverse personnel that's going to be involved in this is the exemplar of what more athletes can do and should do. They should do this. This is actually going to take up very little of Kayvon's time. He's still going to put in work on the field. He's still going to have a bunch of sacks. Once again, 23 years old. He's already actually had investments across various industries: real estate, beverage, hospitality, restaurants. But because Kayvon gets so many things across his plate on all areas of life, now that he's a famous NFL player, it positions him well to contribute to the Collectiv and the investing decisions they make, because they can use his brand. They can use him to have discussions with entrepreneurs or limited partners across the board. But Kayvon has seen enough at this point where he felt comfortable to be able to get involved and genuinely take equity into companies and invest into companies he thinks could disrupt the world that he lives in or adjacent to it. Maybe it's not directly sports tech, but it's something that he'd use, a product or a tool. And I love it. But I want to focus more on the fun side of things. I appreciate these new set of investment funds that are looking to democratize access and give athletes and people underrepresented more opportunities to invest in what has traditionally been a very high barrier to entry asset class. It's very hard to get into venture capital and invest in companies if just waking up out of bed. It's a tough network to break. It's a network thing. It's an experience thing, but it's also a class thing. You got to have a lot of money to invest, the money that some entrepreneurs are looking for, especially if they're raising millions of dollars. But I look at this a different way. I see this as, yes, you're giving access to people who traditionally didn't have access to venture capital, but also I think the athletes are a bigger asset to the venture capital firm than the venture capital firm is to the athlete at this current moment in time, because we are in conditions right now, especially in 2024, where it's tough for founders and VCs to raise subsequent funding rounds. It's tough for venture capital firms to raise right now from LPs. A lot of these firms in 2021 aren't making it. Same thing with the founders. This is our macroeconomic conditions right now. And so what is the best way to make sure you have capital to continue the business? Well, bring in who have capital or who can bring in capital. And let me tell you something. This is the power of athletes now. You have a guy like Kayvon Thibadeux that, one, not only can write checks out of his own checkbook, but two, and arguably more valuable long-term, is when you're talking to family offices, when you're talking to pension funds, when you're talking to children's hospitals, when you're talking to universities that allocate money into the venture asset class. If Kayvon Thibadeux is on the Zoom call, you're going to listen. And this is why all real estate and venture capital firms are sourcing their next Kayvon Thibadeux, because he's going to help keep the firm alive. Okay? I'm talking about investor facing. Let's not even talk about the companies first. Let's talk about investor facing. Kayvon Thibadeux can spend 30 minutes a week meeting with a potential investor in the Collectiv, and that will be pretty memorable. Even if Ashley DeWalt, who is actually is the co-founder and managing partner of the Collectiv, is the one at the end of the day making some of the investment decisions, having Kayvon Thibadeux is a huge asset. And I know Kayvon feels like he's getting value out of this, but the Collectiv, this just put Collectiv on the whole nother level. This is raising the bar. Kayvon, Kyle Kuzma, who's an advisor at Scrum Ventures, Aaron Rodgers' investment firm, Pennychart Capital, Steph Curry's venture capital firm, Mario Götze, famous international soccer player. These guys are bigger assets to the VC firms than it is for these athletes making bets in their companies and maybe getting returns a couple years from now. That could be super valuable, but look, we don't know whether the firm's going to succeed, but I can tell you what, these firms are going to last longer. It's about staying in the game, right? Having more bats at the plate. And so I don't understand, if you're an investment firm or a venture capital firm, even if you're investing in commercial real estate, even if you're investing in deep tech, AI, crypto, things that you don't need an athlete to succeed, you want an athlete on board. And more companies are doing this now. They want to build, maybe it's an athlete in residence or a venture partner. Kayvon is a venture partner. I don't know if he's a managing director. I don't think he is. But he's going to be in the rooms when important stuff gets decided or important discussions happen. And that moves mountains. And so I think the Collectiv is not early. They're on time to the trend of bringing in athletes to strengthen long-term investment thesis. Same thing with invest like a real estate syndicate fund. If you have a guy in your real estate firm knocking on your door to tell you about a deal he's thinking about investing in or he's a part of, that's in a geographical part of the country that could possibly resonate with you, it'd be a hard thing to turn down. Personally, being a sports fan, and so many people are connected to sports that there's some sentimental, emotional value here when you have one of your favorite players knocking on your institution's door asking if you want to do business together. I mean, come on. And the reverse happens too. These guys are probably now the Collectiv probably has more people interested in putting money into the fund. I can't believe the after effects of this article now and how that's going to help the firm. It's just a glimpse into the future. And so I'm not so focused on Kayvon is an incredible case study for what you will see in the future, where these firms are going to be begging athletes maybe during their rookie years. If they have the brand value already from college and NIL and they have a big following and they are well-spoken and have an interest to some extent. Just like agents want to sign rookies before they enter the draft and help them with that process and get their name out there, the same thing will happen with institutional investment firms. And, eventually there will have to be a serious discussion among early professional athletes about compartmentalizing their, on brand, their in-sport brand identity and what they want out of it. And also at the same time, their off-sport brand and identity of what they want to do while they're playing and what they want to be known as or what they want to do after they're done playing. And so if Kayvon has a great season this year, which he's slated to do, this sets an incredible precedent. Because if Kayvon gets anywhere near those 11 sacks and the Collectiv is running at full speed, he just proved that you can do both and it not be a distraction, and it actually is, they both help each other, which sets the bar and sets us up for a new trajectory with where the relationships between real estate, venture capital, and professional athletes are going. And so I hope you guys will enjoy this crystal ball. Give it a like, a follow, a subscribe. It's been another episode of the Athletes and Assets podcast. I'm your host, Noah Lack. I usually bring on athletes that chat about the business they're building. We chat about entrepreneurship. Today, we chatted about Kayvon Thibadeux, the Collectiv, and where I think 5 to 7 years this is going to go. So good for you, Kayvon. Way to be a trailblazer. Sheesh. It's coming.